Hello everyone, this is Warrior Woman 91 coming to you live from my kitchen. Woo! Okay, so I like to come on here and discuss things that are bothering me, basically. And I've just decided that since my internet is just not reliable, and so I'm not able to do regular shows with regular guests as I had been. So I'm just going to basically do a Periscope version of an episode of the Renegade Millennials tonight. So we've got the whole situation. We've been having sex scandal after sex scandal after sex scandal be the main topic of the news of late for probably the past month and a half now. It's been exhausting to me because I find these stories horrendously disgusting. I just think they're awful. I hate having to cover them. I hate having to read them. I hate everything about these stories. But that's unfortunately what the topic of this discussion is. We've got the Harvey Weinstein allegations. We've got the George Takei allegations. We've got Kevin Spacey, and George Takei, he's now choosing to live life as a gay man, which is shock. I never knew. I never had any clue that this was happening. But I guess the point of this discussion tonight that I want to have is, do we not have standards anymore? Because there are several things that bother me. Number one, with the Roy Moore allegations, I'm seeing this argument from people on Twitter, and I know yes, it's on Twitter. Twitter doesn't necessarily reflect real life, but I am seeing this argument from people on Twitter talking about how even if Roy Moore is guilty of these things, it shouldn't matter. We should vote for him anyway. Now, obviously, I live in California. I have nothing to do with this. The only thing that this affects is whether the Republicans hold a majority in the Senate, which is not being held very strongly at this point. So my question for anybody who's watching, and please write in comments, anybody who's watching, my question is, if Roy Moore is guilty, should he still be voted into office? Because at this point, I would prefer that he step down. We try to mitigate the damage. We do our best to see if we can still hold on to that seat. There's still many options that we can take to do that. Why can't he just step down? There's a couple of different reasons why he's not stepping down. Number one is the possibility that he's completely innocent in all of this, which right now is not looking like a very likely option, but that's an option. Number two, it's because he's selfish, which, is easy to be when you're a politician. Number three, he still thinks he's going to win, whether he's guilty or not. That's the one that I've been tweeting about. I've been talking about it. I did a Periscope also about this, how I think that there is still a large possibility that Roy Moore still wins, even after all of this. Now, here's why I think that. Donald Trump won despite all of the polls, and what has largely been taken away from that is that people were lying to the polls, basically, because it was not a popular position to be a fan of Donald Trump. You were getting beaten up. You were having people, it wasn't just, oh, people were mean to you, or people didn't want to be your friend on Facebook anymore. It was people, you were literally getting beaten up by, members of the wonderful, loving left. So it's a similar position now, because now it's even more unpopular to be a fan of Roy Moore, because Roy Moore has not just been accused of sexual harassment or other crimes of that nature. He's been accused of child molestation, which is a whole nother level of disgusting awfulness entirely. So we've got all these problems now. So just to kind of circle back where I started, I think that You know, the latest Fox poll has him down 10 points. I think that there is still the possibility that this guy wins despite all of that. And the reason for that is because people don't want to tell the polls the truth, whether they're actually going to continue supporting him. They just don't. So let's see. I'm going to see if I can actually access the comments section. Let's see what I got here. Hang on, guys. I did solicit guests for this evening, but I don't know if anybody is going to be available. If they do, they'll just be showing up randomly. We will see if they actually show. Right now, I'm going to post this that we're live now. Okay, the live feed just went out. Now, let's see. That's basically my point. So here's my question, and I'm still trying to pull up the live comments. So hang on, bear with me. But my question is, should people still vote for Roy Moore even if he's guilty? I'm still trying to pull up. Okay, here we go. Let's turn the sound up and let's see. Okay, so we've got a couple people commenting. Actually, Rosemary is commenting. Hello, Rosemary. Actually, you know what? I'm going to see, can we get Rosemary to come on here as a guest real quick? Hang on real quick, guys. This is kind of impromptu. All right. Dang it. I'm trying to bring in some guests here, guys. I apologize for the delay. Let's see. Anyway, so again, just to reiterate, I have a problem with us just saying that we should just continue to support Roy Moore, even if he's guilty. That's the thing that bothers me. I don't like that. I don't. When I first joined the Tea Party, I was not jazzed about, or I was not excited to go and support somebody who's been accused of child molestation. I did not get excited over supporting somebody like Donald Trump, who says, you know, crude things or whatever. And that's not the, you know, sole reason why I have problems with Donald Trump. But that's beside the point. I got excited about the Tea Party because there were so-called people of character in the movement that were trying to bring us back to conservative principles, which I was just learning about at the time. This was back in my early days with political science and taking classes and getting yelled at by teachers and all of that good stuff. But I don't know how you try to convince an idealistic young person. How do you convince them to join your party? How do you convince the Kelly Campagna of 7-8 years ago to be a part of the Tea Party movement or the Republican Party or whatever? How do you convince them that you're the good guys when your guy possibly was a child molester, possibly raped somebody, possibly attempted to rape somebody, whatever? I don't get excited about people like that. I know everybody's gonna come and hate on me because, you know, they are just allegations still. Innocent until proven guilty. But that's only in a court of law. That is not in the court of public opinion. You are not innocent until proven guilty in the court of public opinion. You have to be able to get on the ball. You have to be able to say, this is why this is wrong. And you have to be able to forcefully say that, why this is wrong. And then there's nothing more you can do. Once you've made every effort to say this is not true, and here's why it's not true, and to make it's so frustrating when somebody like Roy Moore goes out and says, I never did any of this stuff, but even if I did, it was only with the permission of her mother. No, no, that's not the right answer. That's not the right answer. You can't give that answer. So that's my little bit that I wanted to talk about. I'm not sure that people are, I'm going to see if I can keep talking as long as possible until people start to join. I don't know if people are going to join. I didn't give them any, notice whatsoever. So I'm just going to keep talking. Just a couple of quick notes even further. Where does this, eventually this election will end. Eventually we'll have a solution to this problem, whether we like it or not. We will either have Roy Moore elected as the senator, and then we'll have to deal with the repercussions of that, or he will lose and we'll have a Democrat in that spot. See what you guys do. We need to stop electing people that have sketchy backgrounds at best. Here's the issue. Roy Moore may not have done those things, but he still put himself in positions where he was able to be accused of doing those things. Somewhere, Mike Pence is laughing. He's just laughing hysterically. So you got that. I think that the Mike Pence rule is not a bad rule. I don't think it's a bad rule, particularly for somebody who's married. It's a little bit different when you're not, because appearances are just different. But yeah, I don't think it's a bad rule. I think that people ought to take a lesson from Mike Pence. And I have another subject that I just remembered. Apparently, Gabby Douglas came out and made a statement regarding one of her fellow gymnasts' accusations of sexual harassment. And her statements had some, I'm paraphrasing it because I don't have it right in front of me, but it was about her thinking that it was important that women dress more modestly in order to discourage sexual harassment. And there was public outcry for her saying that. They were saying that she was not being supportive of her friend and her teammate, and that she was just supposed to go along and say that. Now, I will say, perhaps the way that she worded it was not sensitive. Perhaps it was insensitive. It doesn't sound like it was meant to be insensitive. However, the person she made it to also poses in rather, shall we say, inappropriate positions for the covers of magazines and for the contents of magazines. So that there is something to be said about, maybe you should keep your clothes on. Maybe you should dress appropriately instead of encouraging people to look at you like that. Just saying, maybe. So I think I have a problem with the outcry, basically, because she obviously meant well. She didn't mean it didn't seem like she meant to say, oh, it was your fault that you were harassed or molested or whatever it was. No, it wasn't her fault. It never is the person's fault. However, there are steps you can take to keep yourself out of that position as an adult. As a child, it's up to your parents. And, parents need to step up. We have Rosemary here. Woo! We got one guest. I'm so excited. Okay, so now that my little spiel is done on those two issues, I'm going to ask you the questions.
Yes.
What do you think about the standard for Roy Moore?
I honestly think it's set way too low. I feel like there's already been a compromise with what we had to experience with Trump's primary run.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow that's like set as a new standard. And I think that's a huge mistake. It's like if everything that we're advocating for is better candidates
mm-hmm.
and better policy, lowering the standard for the people that we vote for isn't going to help us any.
Mm-hmm.
I think it makes it worse. And it's like when it comes to all the sexual allegations that have come out over the past month and a half, I think it's stuff that's always been there. But this is the weird thing. It's like, even though this is affecting the GOP and the RNC, I still think it's going to end up affecting the DNC more.
Mm-hmm.
And the Democratic Party more, which I mean can work in our favor. And if it gets to the point where the RNC has to clean house, let them clean house.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the standard has been compromised and it's not good. But again, I still think there's more dirt on that side that they're not going to be able to hide from.
I wouldn't disagree with that. My thing is, if these allegations that are coming out against Roy Moore were coming out against a Democrat, the entire Republican Party would be screaming.
Oh, they would.
It doesn't matter what I mean. Right now, we're all saying calculatedly. We're saying, oh, we need to wait for all the facts. We need to. I mean, we need to have the evidence. The yearbook needs to be looked at. We need to look at it carefully. We need to do this. We need to do that. Which is not. It's not incorrect. But
Right.
we would not be saying that if it was a Democrat. We would be saying, you know, throw him out, get him out of here. He's a scumbag. He's whatever. And now I'm seeing people saying, and granted, this is on Twitter, but these are big people that are saying, well, we should just vote for him anyway, whether he's guilty or innocent. We just should just vote for him anyway. And that's I guess where I have the problem, that we're so polarized that we can't even throw the bad guy out and try to get somebody better in. I guess that's where my issue is coming.
Even if this guy wins the election, the RNC still Mitch McConnell still has the option to not seat him,
Mm-hmm.
and which is an option that still should be considered if the RNC wants to continue cleaner reputation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those things that they had an option with even during the presidential election. And they made some deals behind the scenes just to make sure Trump got the nomination.
Mm-hmm.
But Alabama needs to make a decision really quick.
Mm-hmm.
There's still a chance of someone else winning with a write-in, and someone with Mo Brooks is still very well received in his state and could win. And everyone knows Jeff Sessions, and he could very easily win. Mm-hmm. And I think they're missing an opportunity to fix a wrong. Mm-hmm. And the longer they do that, I think is also a problem.
No, yeah. I absolutely agree with that statement too, because this has been dragged on far too long. Just this game plan, we're basically keeping Roy Moore in the driver's seat here. It's up to him to make the decision. And I just think that, you know, egos are what they are. And whether he's innocent or guilty, he doesn't want to give up his position because he's worked so hard. He's spent so much money. He's got a lot at stake to, you know, win this election. So I guess I'm always frustrated with people that don't take charge of their own. You know, you can't control what Roy Moore does. You can't control that. You can only control yourself. And so you need to step up and make the decision what needs to happen now. Should Donald Trump come and call for him to step down? Should he be forced to step? I don't know. I want some action taken. I want some I guess serious response to these allegations, because these allegations are serious. You're not seeing everyday people being accused of this kind of thing.
Yeah, and you see people who are Republicans saying, well, it's all the timing. It's like, this is opposition research 101 and blah blah blah. It's like, but what if the allegations are actually true? Mm-hmm. Forget the timing part. This is what you get when you go into politics and you don't let all of your skeletons out of the closet at the front of the gate. Mm-hmm. If this is something he refused to own up to before he decided to run for this, then this is comeuppance. There's nothing you can do about that. But it's like, yes, the timing is awful. It's very inopportune for us. But it's like, if the DNC has to sacrifice Franken for us to also get this guy out, to get more out, and like, I'm okay with that sacrifice. Getting them both out, if it's like one we know is a creep, the one is an alleged one. So it's like, if it's worth getting slightly more saintly people in the Senate, I think we should definitely consider it. but it's like the conspiracy theorist of it all of it's like it's so much coordination. This has been in the works for forever. Again, I think is a very big stretch for Republicans to try and take, and it's not fair. And it's not. And this is again hurting their PR when it comes to being pro-woman. And it's like you already have Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan. It's like, well, we're going to redo sexual harassment training and all this stuff. I'm like, you're telling me you guys haven't been doing that already?
Yeah.
And now you have this Roy Moore issue. Bad PR. You've just hurt the RNC brand.
Yeah, I can see it all now. In 2018, all the ads are running. You guys ran Roy Moore, who was accused of sexually harassment. I mean, he's been accused of sexual assault and attempted rape and child molestation and all of these things. And so now, at this point, it's all about what the RNC does. It's all about what Trump does, because it's all about appearances. Optics mean everything in politics. And so because they didn't have a swift response, they're not going to be able to mitigate, those kinds of attack ads in 2018. I completely forgot my other point I was going to bring up on this. But let's just move the discussion to my second topic, because this is just going to be a shorter show. My second topic was, and you probably saw it trending, there was, I think it was Aly Raisman that came out after Michaela Maroney, and she said, yeah, I was also sexually molested by the doctor that was treating both of us. And Gabby Douglas came out, one of their teammates, and said, I think that this is an awful thing, but women also have an obligation to, try to, I suppose, mitigate the advances of men by dressing more modestly. It was essentially what the gist of her tweet was. And she was excoriated for suggesting, how dare you suggest we should not run around naked or with our shirts off? How dare you suggest such a thing? Now, granted, perhaps the way she said it was not the most sensitive way to say it. Maybe using a tweet wasn't a good idea. Maybe the timing was bad. But I guess my issue is the outcry was not about, oh, her timing was bad. The outcry was not about, oh, it wasn't very sensitively put. The outcry was about the scandalous thought that women should dress more modestly. So what are your thoughts on that, Rosemary?
It's like there's the libertarian part of me that says that women should be able to feel like they can a certain amount of extracurricular activities. And then there's the other part that's like, if you dress is a risk. And if you're wanting to elevate the risk of being harassed, then that's on you.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that you're asking for it. The guy who aggresses you is the aggressor. Don't think that showing off your décolleté and having your shorts be as short as underwear is not going to invite some of that attention. I mean that they are responsible for the guy doing it. The guy, he's the one aggressing. Yeah. Thinking that, well, doesn't matter what I do or how I act or how I dress, affect on the atmosphere that I'm around.
I do think that feeds into the libertarian position, because you have the absolute right to run around in as little or as many clothes as you want, and you're going to accept the responsibility for the risks of those actions. Now, that said, especially in the case of Aly Raisman, and I think that was where the issue should have been raised. Her allegations are from when she was underage. So it doesn't matter what she was wearing. It was up to her parents, to determine what she was wearing. And she had, there's no amount of personal responsibility that can be applied necessarily to a teenager.
Right.
Because their parents are the ones responsible for them, not them. As an adult going forward, I think is where the distinction needs to be made. Now she doesn't have to be prancing about in her underwear on the cover of Sports Illustrated. She's going to attract a certain type of attention by doing that. So I guess that I agree with Gabby Douglas's. I'm getting her confused with different Gabby. I agree with the statement that she needs to, women do have a responsibility not to attract a certain, or to do their best not to attract a certain type of attention. But
if they don't want.
Right, if they don't want it. If you want it, fine. But I think the outcry was just overblown. Give the girl a break. She meant well. She's not trying to attack somebody by saying that.
No.
So anyway, that's my little rant there.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's like when you have an aggressor and a victim, you do have two completely separate individuals. It's like you have to take into account what one is and have to take into account what the other is. And if one is worse acting than the other, then you can say that, but you can still evaluate the situation where the other person put themselves in that situation. It's mutual.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. So I think that most of my regular guests have decided not to come on today, which is tragic and sad, and you all have failed. But granted, I didn't give anybody any time notice, so I just wanted to say thank you to Rosemary for following through and for coming on through thick and thin. She follows through, and she did a show with me. So this was a very, very short show, and I'm grateful to everybody who watched, all 5 of you. There were 5 people watching. So I think I'm going to wrap this up. And just real quick, follow. Who do I want people to follow? I want everybody to go follow @RealJacobAry. I'm just going to give that one shout out for the end of this show. It's a kind of a random impromptu show, but everybody go follow @RealJacobAry. You might see him occasionally on the Michael Knowles show, which I've heard, it's an okay show, I guess. I've heard about it. I've never seen it, but anyway, everybody should go and check out. Yeah, I don't know.
Michael Knowles has got a bronze medal or 2,
Yeah, I don't know. He's just I've never met him either. I hear the show is good. So anyway, go check it out and watch @RealJacobAry on it. And Rosemary, if you have a real quick shout out as well.
Go follow Paul Bois. Paul Bois 39.
Absolutely.
It's like follow his stuff. It's like follow his eminence because it radiates even through his Twitter.
Oh my gosh. I have met Paul Bois, and Paul Bois is possibly the greatest human being to walk this earth. So everybody go follow him @PaulBois39. I 100% endorse that follow, or it's not Follow Friday, it's Saturday, but that shout out 100% endorse. Go follow @RealJacobAry and @PaulBois39. All right, so we're going to go off the air. Thank you all for watching.